The preservation of the Quran has generated some of the most intricate calligraphic art in human history. We see this in 13th century manuscripts of Surah Al-Anbiya, where the finalized text is surrounded by complex illuminations and precise vowel markings. But on a textual level, academics and historical critics have often pointed to this specific chapter, the 21st surah, as appearing disjointed. The narrative shifts rapidly between apocalyptic warnings, historical accounts, and cosmic observations. To understand the actual structure of this text, we must strip away the centuries of added vowel marks and reading aids. We have to look at the rasm, the bare consonantal skeleton of the original Arabic. When modern literary analysts isolate that skeleton, they find a mathematical and geometric framework known as concentric patterning. Surah Al-Anbiya embeds its defense of monotheism directly into its physical and structural architecture. Surah Al-Anbiya consists of 112 verses, revealed during the late Meccan period, a time of severe socio-political isolation and persecution for the early Muslim community. This diagram maps those 112 verses into a literary structure known as ring composition. In this layout, the beginning of a text mirrors its end, the second section mirrors the second to last, and everything drives toward a central core. The outermost ring frames the entire chapter. Verses 1 through 15 deliver an urgent warning about human accountability, corresponding to the final judgments described in verses 107 through 112. Moving one layer in, we find the middle ring. Verses 16 through 47 lay out logical and cosmological proofs for divine unity. On the exact opposite side, verses 92 through 106 mirror those proofs by describing the physical unrolling of the cosmos at the end of time. This symmetry disproves the theory of a haphazard assembly. The text operates as a pre-calculated framework designed to pull the reader's focus directly into the center. That center lies between verses 48 and 91. This is the prophetic gallery, a rapid, non-chronological grouping of 16 prophets. To understand why these figures are placed here, we look at the historical context of the revelation. The ruling Quraysh tribe in Mecca objected to the Prophet Muhammad because of his mortality. They demanded an angelic messenger, mocking the prophet for his human needs. The narrative core refutes this by putting extreme human vulnerability on display. It details Job enduring devastating physical illness and Jonah facing total despair in the darkness of the sea. These disparate accounts are tied together by a precise, recurring Arabic transition. When a prophet reaches his absolute breaking point and calls out, the text answers with the phrase, "Fastajabna lahu," so we answered him. Placing mortal suffering and immediate divine rescue at the center of this massive structure identifies human vulnerability as the axis upon which divine mercy turns. This structural discipline also operated as an active defense in the live polemics of 7th century Mecca, a context scholars study through Asbab al-Nuzul, the occasions of revelation. A prominent Meccan intellectual named Ibn al-Jibra attempted to trap the prophet using verse 98. The verse declares that whatever you worship instead of Allah will become fuel for hell. This logic tree illustrates Ibn al-Zibra's snare. If everything worshipped besides God is condemned to the fire, then revered figures like Jesus and the angels must also burn. The defense rests on a strict grammatical parameter. The Quran specifically employs the Arabic relative pronoun ma. In classical grammar, ma applies exclusively to inanimate objects, like carved idols, protecting conscious, righteous beings from the decree. To definitively close the loophole, verse 101 was revealed, confirming that those destined for a reward will be kept far away from the fire. This level of linguistic precision provided active armor against the intellectual challenges of the Meccan elite. This structural discipline scales down to the individual letters. In verse 33, the surah describes the celestial movements of the sun and the moon. The motion is detailed with the specific Arabic phrase, kulon fi falakin, meaning all in an orbit are swimming. This phrase is an example of iconic syntax, where the physical layout of the text visually imitates its own definition. By mapping the bare consonantal skeleton of the sentence, we reveal a perfect micro-palindromic structure. The letter Ya sits at the center, functioning as a pivot point. From that center, the consonants Kaf, Ram, and Fa radiate outward in both directions, mirroring each other to create a continuous, looping cycle. This micro-level symmetry aligns with documented lexical word symmetries, such as the identical frequencies of conceptual opposites like life and death. The universal laws of balance and orbital mechanics are literally encoded into the geometric shape and frequency of the words describing them. Zooming out from the micro-letters to the ring composition, Surah Al-Anbiya perfectly bridges Surah Taha and Surah Al-Hajj. Surah Taha provides an intimate close-up of Moses. Al-Anbiya expands this into a universal prophetic lineage, establishing the groundwork for the global assembly in Surah Al-Hajj. The sheer density of this single chapter is significant. It balances lexical frequencies, deploys micropalindromes, and maintains a thematic ring composition across 112 verses. All of this mathematical precision was delivered to a grieving prophet in an era of intense persecution and social boycott. Surah Al-Anbiya demonstrates the path to divine rescue is anchored by human patience and ethical integrity, which serve as the center of a precisely ordered textual and cosmic model.